All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. I know the game's still going on right now, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in who's able to do that. Let me get this tweeted out here. Not everybody watches the Super Bowl, so I'm sure we'll get some folks showing up. So yeah, I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend and is having a good night tonight and enjoying the game. If you're watching that, enjoying friends, family, and all that good stuff. This week, we're going to kind of have some fun this week. We're going to be talking about day trading with changes of composure with monthly and weekly candles. So it should be pretty interesting. We're basically going to be going over just that, right? Like what, different things that show changes of composure in the market, right? So maybe going from bullish to bearish, bearish to bullish, right? And the first thing we're going to talk about today is the monthly and weekly candles. Before we do that, everything we're going to talk about is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So please take a moment to review this disclaimer. Awesome. Well, good. Well, let's take a look and see where we left off with the market last week, and then we'll take a look at the futures and see what they're doing right now as we head into the evening and into tomorrow. So you can see here on the monthly chart, we finished January, right? We've already started February. Happy Groundhog Day to everybody. Normally Groundhog Day, right? If you remember the movie, right? It's kind of the same thing over and over again. We saw that for a while, like bullish month, bullish month, bullish month. And this is the first month, January, we see kind of a change in composure. So we'll talk about that a little bit, of course, later. But we are seeing a shooting star here on the monthly chart, right at the upper Bollinger Band. So that is interesting heading into this week. Weekly chart, another change, right? We have a momentum shooting star right here, but one thing we want to take notice of is look at the support that it came into, right? So we had buying pressure in these areas. So, we pushed down pretty nicely on the weekly chart, right, with a momentum shooting star candle, right, but right into support. So that could be one argument for a potential bounce going on here in the markets, which we'll take a look here in a little bit. So from there, we've got the daily chart. So the daily chart's been really interesting, right? So this is kind of one of the key things that we've seen in the market right here. So talking about changes of composure, right? So what do we see here, right? Back in the on the 22nd of January, we saw another shooting star, right? Like a upper shadow right here, which hit the all-time highs, right? And from there, started to work our way down, right? So we broke down below the micro upper trend line, right? Gave us a lower shadow right here, right? And that was kind of our key, indication of what's happening. And then we had this huge gap down, right? So we had this, so this gap down in itself, right, was an indication of some major change happening. Right? This is the first big gap down we've seen in a while. I mean, not really since like back here, since back in December, have we seen any gap down. This was a significant gap down. Right now, this one, turned into a hammer. We worked our way back up. This one turned into a spinning top. Not quite a, momentum shooting star, which could have got us quickly down to the 50 EMA or the 50 SMA on the daily, but it was enough to, to give us, some caution. So we shifted our trend box down, right? And so once we have a trend box like this big, we are clearly in a change, right? So that's kind of just a, an indication of what's going on here, with what we're talking about this week, changes in composure, right? We had a nice bullish day, filled the gap on that one. Then we had a kind of almost a dark cloud cover here, right? Big gap down, then recovery, right? Trapped a lot of, we call it a slipping hot dog pattern here, trapped a lot of bulls in it, right? As we flushed down on Friday. Had a really nasty sell-off on Friday, got really close to the 50-day moving average, and also put in a lower shadow too. So it wasn't like a big red, candle that just looked like it was just going to keep on going. It kind of stalled out a little bit, like I said, came into some support levels right here. So definitely something to keep an eye on here. Let's take a look at that price action on Friday on the 15-minute chart, right? So this is what we saw. Right, so we saw a bearish go bar at the open. We saw a bearish 15 orb at the open. Right, we broke the 15 orb down. Right, had a big move down. Bear flag. Right, worked our way down. Another bear flag, and then worked our way down. Finally finished with a little hammer spinning top at the close. Right, and these are the levels that we provide to our members before each market. Right, you can see here it was pretty significant. Right? This is a daily pivot level from last week. Right, and then you can see we started. We do like symmetries intraday. Remember we talked about that a couple weeks ago. We talked about it with Fibonacci's, like these symmetries. So a lot of times these bear flags, when you see these pullbacks, right, especially on the lower time frames, you can grab this on the 1-minute chart. Right, these little pullbacks here are kind of that are symmetrical to other ones can show us that hey, maybe there's more downside coming. Right, we could see that. Tried to hold this level right here, gave one little relief bounce. Right, and they had this nasty candle right here, which worked our way almost down to the S3 level. So really key stuff there. So once again, what we're going to be talking about today is changing the composure in the market or changing the composure of stock, right? And today we're going to kind of hone in on the monthly and weekly candles, okay? So I just want to go through a couple examples, right? So this is really one of the key things, especially if you're a long-term investor, or if you're looking for bullish, setups and things like that. It's always important before swinging anything to look at those charts, to look at the monthly and weekly charts, right? So it's right here after January, right? This right now is interesting, right? Now let's take a look at the futures real quick, actually. Let me pull that up real quick. So let's look at the S&P futures. Just so you can get an idea where we left off the other day, we just looked at that. And now look what's happening here with the futures, right? We are, pretty big relief bounce here this evening, right? So maybe they just, want people to be happy for the Super Bowl, whatever the case is. I'm not sure if there's any real news out or anything like that, but we're seeing a significant bounce up right here. So if you take from this level right here, right, you go to our trend line right here. We've broken out this trend line, double inside 15, works its way up, double inside 15, works its way up, right? And you can see we're just, slowly working our way up to this macro, downward trend line right here, right, from Friday, okay? So, but still, futures are up 20 points, right? So it's recovering, approximately, a pretty decent portion of the range, from the other day. So if we go up here, this was the 31st. This is, from Friday's sell down, right? Look at that. It started with this. So let's see. So this is, here. Okay, so we've recovered almost 50% of the range, right? And now it's kind of like, stalling out here a little bit. So that just kind of gives you some, something to look at right here. So because when we looked at the SPX, right, we could see that, we're running into some support right here. So we'll see if that ends up giving us any follow through into tomorrow. Okay, so let's take a look here. So let's take a look at a couple significant things, right? So one of the things we look at is the monthly chart. Now, monthly chart is long-term, type stuff, right? And it's very rare to see a shooting star like this on the monthly chart on SPX. So, again, we might be seeing a little relief bounce. We might be coming up into a little bit of this range or 50% of the day, from the other day, right? But until we can take out these all-time highs, this shooting star remains in force, right? And we have to, respect that, right? Now, we don't see many of these, right? Right now I've got, let's see, on the monthly chart, I've got 3 years pulled up. Right, it takes like basically going max available back 20 years, right, to find a shooting star like this, right, and we didn't see that until basically I think like it was a month in the even before the .com. I think it was 1998. Do we see a shooting star like this right here? Yeah, July 1st, 1998. Right, we saw a shooting star that hit the upper Bollinger Band right on the monthly chart, and look what happened. So here's your, July ended, we came into August, and then you got this big move down, 164-point move to the downside, which ended up going to the mid Bollinger Band here on the monthly chart. So seeing a candle like this is a potential change in composure, right? So we see that going on right now, right, in the market, right? We've had a huge run up, right, ever since the earlier this year, since December, right? We hit the lower Bollinger Band and the 50, guys. Remember that we did our Dow discussion on the 50 MA, right? That is a key light in the sand, right, on the monthly chart. So that being said, keep an eye out here on the monthly chart. We go to the weekly chart. Right, we look for changes in composure here too. I highly suggest, right, not making an investment advice or anything like that, but highly suggest before swinging anything, just make sure you see, take a look, just take a peek. Right, it takes 2 seconds, just look at it, see what the weekly chart is doing. Right, so again, last week, 2 weeks ago here, started the week of the 20th. Right, we had our first, kind of thicker red candle in a while, right? That's sort of like a, potential change in composure type idea, right? Anytime you see these red candles pop out here on the weekly chart, look at this guy. Right, a little bit of concern, right? The next week it got down, right, kind of pushed around for a little bit right here. It's kind of like just a pause, just give you a pause of concern, right? And then of course we had this shooting star right here, from Friday, but again into a little bit of support. I think it closed below these levels, a little more bearish, right? And that would have taken out the lower shadow on Friday's candle, right? That would have been a little bit more concerning because we got some gaps here on the weekly chart. We have a closing gap right here, things like that. Okay, so these are things to look out for. More examples. Let me show you real quick. So let's take a look here at Boeing. Okay, so remember Boeing. Remember before the first big crash, right? Back here, right, in March of 2019, right? Look at this candle. It wasn't fully bearish engulfing, right? But it was certainly something to take note that, hey, maybe something is changing here, right? So, again, if you're long in the super 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 green candles in a row, and you get a candle like this, something maybe to step back and be like, okay, maybe this bull run is over for a little bit. At least trim some longs. Some folks actually got puts on this candle and ended up profiting on that big down move. Of course, came right to our 30 MA, right? We talked about that last week. Really, really key candle. And not until we closed bearishly below that did we really start to see, some moves to the downside. Here's a bearish close below it. It was an hour below it pretty significantly, right, with these guys. Right, and that's worked our way down on Boeing the last couple weeks. So that's a one to look at. Let's take a look at Roku. Okay, take a look at Roku here. Let's pull up a clean chart on this one if we can. Let's see if I've got. There we go. Nothing's clean. Let's create a new one. We do so much work on these. So this candle right here, right? Look at this. Big bull run. I can't go back that far. But big bull run up here on Roku. Remember this? Huge. And then look at this week. completely bearish engulfing. It hit all-time highs at that point, right? And look at that, the real body of this week. Not only it engulfed the entire candle, that's a true bearish engulfing candle at the highs, right? So that's definitely something to keep an eye on right here, right? And that shows you that, hey, maybe the composure of things are changing, right? And then it ended up working its way down, actually bouncing off of the 30 MA on the weekly. Remember how significant that was? Let's take a look at two more. Let's take a look at Shop. Shop did the same thing, right? Kind of had this epic run up, right? Look, we got kind of these spinning top. We saw a bunch of these, a bunch of red candles right there. It wasn't until this guy right here where things really started to change, right? So we had this guy, right, spinning top, and then we had a nice little tiny little inside, shooting star candle, and then boom, flushed, right? And then look at that. So I mean, even if you didn't catch this move right here, this shows you that not only the composure has changed, that hey, but we might at least come back and test the 30 MA on the weekly, and then boom, you get this move down from 334 ultimately down to 283, so a nice 50-point down move on that. Then we had that congestion zone, right? We had the breakout over the 30 MA and worked our way back up. So it's always important to look for these. And then one more, let's look at the bullish side. Of course, what else would we look at if we're looking for something bullish? Let's take a look at Tesla. Okay, so Tesla, let's see if we've got anything clean on this one. Yeah, so Tesla is interesting, right? So obviously we've seen some down moves in Tesla, right? Look at that. I mean, you have this bearish engulfing candle right here. Wasn't quite fully bearish going, didn't take out the upper limit, but definitely change of composure type stuff. And they had a big move down that week, right? But it also helps to look for, changes to the upside, right? You have a big move right here. Of course, this is after earnings, right? But look at this one right here. Well, it's another earnings one too, but look at this. After this consolidation zone right here, this congestion zone, on the weekly, you have this huge move out of the 30 MA, right? And look at that. That ended up being like the precursor to this huge move up right here. So you can also see these changes of composure on the weekly chart, right? So if you're like all these hedge funds that have just gotten burnt, right, trying to short Tesla, why would you be shorting it, right? Why would these guys be shorting it, right? I mean, the candles themselves. I mean, look at this break. I mean, look at this huge candle right here. I mean, you're over the 30 MA, huge volume, big green candle, right? I mean, they're probably looking at something like this for changing composure. It's compared to that, I mean, it's really not as much, right? So anyway, we get above that again with more volume on this guy, and then just continues to work its way up, right? So again, huge parabolic move so far, but again, changes of composure, definitely stuff to look at, both on the weekly chart, right, and the monthly chart. If you go to just real quick, if you go to the monthly chart here on Tesla, right, this is a pretty big deal, right? That same, time frame. Look at the monthly chart. Right? We want to be short when you have a big monthly candle with big volume coming out of not only the monthly cloud, right? The mid Bollinger Band, the 50 MA on the monthly chart, right? We want to be short that? No. Hedge funds should know better, right? You don't want to be shorting that guy. So anyway, so there's Tesla and its epic run up. So hopefully we ended that on a positive note with some bullish activity. And at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those in the chat window. We'll try to get through as many as we can and wrap up as early as possible. I don't know if there's any Super Bowl left. Yeah, there's 4 minutes, which basically equates to like a half an hour in football time, right? So it's pretty close. What is it, like 20 to 17? So hopefully. Hopefully, if anybody wants to get back to the game, we can do that too. So anyway, good stuff. So I had a few that came in from Shirley. So let's take a look there and see what we got going on. We have FNV. Okay, so FNV looks interesting, right? Watch out for the upper shadow on Friday. But it did hold bullishly, right? In this Franco-Nevada gold stuff, right? Held up on Friday when the rest of the market was down with big volume. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on there. Nice one on that one, Shirley. VXX. Of course, the VIX started to get a little bit perky the other day. A little bit of an upper shadow here at a macro downward trend line and the clouds. So just be careful with that. Wouldn't be surprised. That's another kind of reason that, hey, maybe why the market is up a little bit here after hours or the futures are up. So something to look at there. Oh, we always look at VIX before considering shorting the market, right? Gold, too, started to perk up a little bit. But again, upper shadow here, even though it hit fresh highs. A little messed up on the trend line. But anyway, definitely working its way up there. So, so still bullish, still proven otherwise. EMB. Yep, this looks interesting here. So this is one of your kind of ETF type ones right here, but decent move up here, right? Generally strong, bullish to proven otherwise on that one, and then SDAO, right? Sort of like a little short, ultra short of the Dow. So got over to 50 MA, but again, watch out for your cloud up there too. So good stuff. Wendy, good morning. Hope you're doing well in Singapore. Hope everybody's doing well and healthy over there. And that you're doing great. Enlighten me. What's going on? Good evening. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Michael, happy Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah, thanks for bringing some charts with you. So we got Caterpillar. Let's take a look. So Caterpillar had earnings on Friday, and actually had a little bit of a beat on earnings. I'm not sure how their outlook was, but again, the candle, again with the rest of the market, was down. Again, here's your trend line right here. Let's see how it handles, a couple of these levels, and how it holds the prior lows on that one. It did get below the 200-day moving average on it, which is a little bit, kind of. It did have some, some prior lower shadows here, so it might find some support in that area. But again, bearish until proven otherwise, right? So let's take a look beyond. So beyond, gosh, it had such an epic move out. Remember the breakout candles were here. We got through the cloud, huge move up. Had a nice candle right here that looked like it wanted some more. Got a little bit of a push up there. Our group, we made a little bit of profit on that one, and then it kind of came back in. Fortunately, we took profit on it because it came right into those upper shadows right there. So again, it had to close over that guy for us to, or at least push over that for us to stay interested, right? A lot of upper shadows here. Up shadow, up shadow, up shadow, up shadow. Right? I can't really see that right there, but and then a big push down inside candle, and then it pushed that down on Friday, right? But it's got now some lower shadows here as it is approaching at least a couple of these double inside date bottoms right here. Might want to test those levels before bouncing again. And then of course Roku. So Roku's really rough. This has been on our bearish radar for a while, so it gave us a nice move on Friday. It really did. I mean, there's a couple, time frames that we look at, and 15 was just beautiful as we got this kind of cascading move into the open, and it's this, right? So there's a couple of momentum, tools that we use, right? This gave us a nice move at the open there, and finally got below the 15 orb to the bottom right there on Friday. But yeah, nasty daily candle, big volume. Just watch over the 200-day moving average there for potential support. And then you've got Ulta. Ulta's kind of hanging out, right? Holding a couple little support levels right here. Prior resistance, possible support. It's a little bit below it, but it's got this guy here, right? So again, really, really key stuff. I want to see it get it back over these guys, right? So we might be in a congestion. Let's see if we can get out of there with some volume and at least try to get up to the 200-day moving average on that, on Ulta. And then Zoom. Zoom was one of the only ones, one of the only charts that was particularly bullish on Friday, right? Other than like your ultra shorts, right? Stuff like that. But this thing is trying, right? So let's see, we got this right here. Here's your recent lows. There's your trend line, right? So we got out of the trend. We confirmed over this guy right here. Zoom is pretty bullish going into Friday, and I think we should add that. Make sure that's on our game plan for Monday. That's a good one to mention. Thank you. Let's see for the reminder, and of course Tesla is going to be always going to be on the bullish list until it's not. So let's see. Yeah, that's good. Good. Okay, awesome. Great charts. Thank you. And then XP, let's take a look. Yeah, XP looking pretty interesting right here. This guy, again, watch your volume on this thing. It's still pretty good volume. Just doesn't look as exciting. It's pretty new, so we don't have any cloud yet or anything like that. But yeah, it's hanging in there. Here's your recent lows. There's your trend line. Again, I'd like to see it close over these guys right here. A little bullish today, some increased volume. See if it works its way up. Good, Cherry. What's going on? Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing well. Let's take a look at Visa. Okay, so Visa struggled a little bit, right? So it had earnings, right? In the evening, we gapped down a little bit, faded the gap real quick, right, and then gave you a shooting start at the downside right here. Actually, just closed slightly below these levels right here, so kind of keep it on the radar. I think if it closes below Friday's lows, you might start to see some downside movement. We got some gaps and stuff like that to deal with on the downside. And then CRWD has been doing a lot of surprising to the upside the last couple days, and it actually managed to recover off its lows a little bit, and start to push its way up towards the end of the day. But pretty decent stuff right here. Again, this level right here is really going to be key. Your 64 level. If we can get above that with some volume, right, might really start trying to work its way up. And then JPM. Let's take a look under the 50-day. Under the 50-day, again, lower shadows, right? So it filled a closing gap down here. But again, if it could start to work its way down, right, you'd want it to close above some of these levels, and maybe it'll get its way out of the cloud there on the daily. So good stuff. MHawk 420, what's going on? Check out NEXCF. NEXCF. Okay. Nextech Air Solutions. Yeah, this is probably a smart idea. If I'm not mistaken, it's probably something to do with air quality type stuff, or maybe possible virus prevention type thing. So if not, let's take a look at the chart and just see what it's doing right here. So yeah, last couple weeks, right, big volume coming up, big push up here, 250, right? And let's see, so it is at this point, we're kind of here. trying to get above here. So maybe just a pause day if we can get over this inside day, right? If we can get over the inside day right high right here, right, might give it a little push up and try to get at least above that 250 level. Great stuff. Jay Schwartz, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. So you've got, let's see, you've got V. We just took a glance at that, but absolutely. So a little bit of a miss on earnings right there, at least a little bit of a bad follow through on its earnings report. Gap down. Try to fade the gap. Came back down again. I would like to have seen it close more toward the lows, but it does have some levels below that it may want to test if it can push below Friday's low. And then CGC. Canopy growth. It's too bad. This thing was really starting to look epic after a while, but it's really got to get above this guy right here, and then of course to get out of this whole thing, it needs to get above these pivot levels right here. So it's starting to look great. Nice candle right here. This was a decent one to swing for a couple days, right, and then just couldn't get any more, any more to it. So just been struggling a little bit. So I'm not saying it's bearish, but it just has some work to do before it can get out of this congestion area. And then LK, gosh, that's definitely a tricky one. LK had a crazy day on Friday, right? It had, what was it, Muddy Waters came out and said, like, it was a fraud, and that, it was a rough day on Friday anyway in the market with China and everything. And so that started to push down. And then Citron comes out and says, no, it's good, right? And then it starts to rally a little bit. So I had a big day, 85 million shares traded on Friday. Still ended up closing below the 50 moving average, but it got above its cloud. So, I think it's going to be active one way or the other, over the next couple of days. But this thing's just been a wild ride, right? But this big volume coming in could be very, very interesting for it. So it might have been just a way for, like, all the Morgan Stanleys and stuff who were trying to upgrade it up here to get their final out on it. But we'll see. And then AMD. Oh, it's been trying, right? So they had decent earnings and all that stuff, kind of came back down. It is holding some levels right here. It hasn't quite... Did it fill the gap right here high? I don't think it's filled this closing gap, though. So it's got some levels to at least deal with right here. But it's kind of just back in its range again. AMD is, I think if we can get above these levels and start to get bullish over it, I think maybe it could try to start to become like a more of like a momentum type stock again. But until then, right, it's just kind of consolidating a little bit here, and we'll see. It might want to come back to this 50 moving average. It's got to get over all these levels, but still one to look for intraday for interesting moves. Mary, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Let's take a look at RH. This is one I want to get long on this thing at some point. I love the fact that Warren Buffett has a stake in it, right? I love that it's been basically bullish forever, right? So if we, but here's your macro trend line right here from, I think back in, it's probably, no, June. Okay, so June of 2019. And this thing has just been on fire, right? So Friday was the first day it broke below this huge macro trend line right here. Okay. So this is kind of a big deal, right? This is change of composure type stuff. So if we close again bearishly below there, especially below the cloud with some increased volume, this thing might want to come back and start filling some gaps, right? It needs to, they need to give it an upgrade or something like that because it's in a key area right here, right? It broke out of a congestion to the downside with some increased volume. Let's see if it can confirm below there and then push even farther down. Otherwise, right, it needs to get back above these guys, these 230 levels, right, and try to get its way back up to all-time highs. So definitely want to keep an eye on. I think certainly if it does work its way down and get to these gaps, it's going to give an opportunity to buy the dip on this one, but you just have to kind of keep watching it. And let's see what we got. Diz. So Diz has earnings coming up this week, right? Yeah. So Tuesday afternoon. So after hours, so we'll see how that goes. We got a little bit of an upper, kind of a northern doji right here at the 200-day moving average. Again, I don't think we're going to see too much action on this one until earnings. It might try to work its way up slightly before earnings, but I still wouldn't, just be careful with it. That's all. But it is back in the downward channel right here, so maybe it'll try to get its way up to the top of the channel. And then JCI, short. Yeah, I can see why you'd think that. Bearish engulfing candle for sure. Good volume, after earnings, and so it's a pretty weak close. But again, this thing is a tricky little monster right here. It just gets so congested in these candles. Let's look what it did in here. It's just like no fun to trade. Big candle. It's kind of got lots of support levels right here. But if it starts to get more bearish, right, you could try to target this gap down here. But just watch a couple of these levels. And then GLW for a short too. Yeah, normally safety stock type stuff like your Cornings or things like that. But yeah, that had a really weak close too on Friday. It actually got below a couple of these pivots, so that is looking very weak, and definitely something to keep on the radar there. So that is I'll put that on the bearish list too. So that's looking pretty interesting. You do have a couple of these guys below. So just something to keep an eye on there. But yeah, GLW definitely looks on the bearish side. So yeah, good. And when is Google report, guys? Is that I thought it was tomorrow. I just don't know what time. Is it before the open? After hours. Yeah, most stuff is probably going to be after hours on Friday. So that's one to keep an eye on too. Wow, look at that. Well, it's technically not bearish engulfing because it was still kind of moving down. But look at that little Chichiko, little upper shadow right there on that guy on the daily chart too. So good stuff. Great charts tonight. Do we have the Super Bowl done yet? 156. You got time to catch the end of the Super Bowl. It looks like the Chiefs are up by 4 points, so that could be pretty interesting. So anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. I know it's a fun, busy night, but not everybody watches the Super Bowl, so I figure we could at least look at some charts. And of course, you can always go back and look at the recording. So if you're new here, definitely click subscribe on YouTube and please hit the like button. We always enjoy that, and also check out the links in our description. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening tonight. Enjoy the rest of the game if you guys are watching it, and I hope everybody has a great trading day tomorrow. We'll catch you guys in the morning market prep, and we'll see you guys then. And thank you so much, everybody, for your support. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And I'll talk to you guys soon.